On this new series that I'm loving so far, on this Becoming series, and y'all, we are getting down to the most gritty for Becoming series. This is I'm your host, Daniellejmartin of Behind the Spotlight Podcast. Now, over the next couple of weeks, I'm inviting you to tune into a couple of conversations that I'll be having with some of my close friends who are also true believers and community influencers.
I will ask him for something, he will give it to me, but it's not how I thought it would look.
Just because you think that you deserve something does not mean that you deserve it in that season.
The skills that you have that nobody else has, your perspective, the lens that you have, those things are your best thing.
People always say, like, when you know better, you do better. But why is it that when you know better, you still don't do better? Are you really becoming wiser? Now, on this new series called Becoming, we're going to be diving into a variety of topics that's going to empower you and inspire you to become the better version of yourself.
That's what it is. Because you're stepping into the unknown. You're stepping into unfamiliar territory. So when you're growing and when you're evolving and when you're changing, you're going to be faced with things that you've never been faced with.
What God is calling you to do doesn't make sense. It makes miracles.
That you are the head and not the tail, above and not beneath.
Now, if you find that this conversation is serving you, then I encourage you to share it with someone else. And of course, don't forget to follow us on all of our social media platforms. Now, open up your minds and be ready to be transformed. All right. Hey guys, I'm Daniellejmartin. I'm your host for Behind the Spotlight Podcast, and we're back with another episode on this new series called Becoming, where you learn how to become the better version of yourself. Now, over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be inviting you in to listen to the conversations of what it takes to become the better version of yourself. Now, this is a 10-part series where we go behind the scenes to learn from different perspectives. I'm super excited to welcome the guest that's joining me today. Now, she's not only my mentor, but I call her a true friend in Christ. Now, Morgan Young is an evening weekend anchor and 10 p.m. reporter at WFAA, the ABC affiliate in Dallas, Texas. She is passionate about storytelling, empowering women, and tackling tough topics. Now, outside of work, she writes and produces faith and lifestyle content and is an avid reader and enjoys cooking. And when I say that she enjoys cooking, I mean she's a true chef. Okay, so without further ado, let me introduce you to Morgan Young. How are you today, honey?
I am fantastic. Fantastic. Happy to be here.
I'm so excited. So on this episode of Becoming, we are focusing on your strengths and weaknesses. And so honestly, Morgan, I truly chose you for this topic for a variety of reasons. You have taught me as a friend to get through the tough times. And not only that, but through this industry of what we call journalism, it's the toughest industry, and it takes, tough skin, tough bones, I would even say. But really, you've taught me a lot about, it's crazy how we got together in our friendship in the way that we did. And so I do think it's important to also share how we became friends and kind of go down that road, and then also discover just the identity of your strengths and weaknesses so people can know who you are, right? And you're on this episode for many, many reasons. And so we met at a hairstyle in a hair place, really, right?
Yeah, we were getting our hair done. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was like Deidre. I had gone to her since I was like 11. So I had gone to her like my whole life. And I had come home. I was the summer after my junior year. I had just come home from New York. I had interned in New York for the summer. And I was like, I need to do something different with my hair. Mm-hmm. So I went to her and you were sitting there. And I remember you were eating a salad. It made me hungry because I hadn't eaten. And I was like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. And she introduced us.
And I was just getting out of college and I was trying to find a way to jump into the industry. And I think I was just starting my master's. I really don't remember at the time, but I was really trying to figure out how do I get my first on-air job. And when I tell you that Morgan literally scooped me in and just welcomed, like, it was like she was my own mother and just took me in, was like, okay, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to work on. And from there, I really think that I honored our friendship and just like who you were, because again, like the TV industry is very tough. And for someone to just kind of do that, I think in the time I felt special. I felt kind of like, this is a vulnerable moment. Like she really cares. Like, you know what I mean? And it's kind of hard to come across those type of people in the industry. And so from there, we kind of like, you were mentoring me through, helped me get my first on-air job in Topeka, Kansas. So let's praise Morgan for that. Okay. But one thing that I really loved too is that you kind of taught me like the ins and outs about life. We kind of really connected over relationships and friendships as well. And I just always felt like she was talking to me without even realizing that she was talking to me. And the way that she lived her life was just very authentic. And I love that. And you always told me, like, once you get into this industry, like, don't focus on becoming someone else, like, just be you, you know? And I absolutely love that. And honestly, like, I really didn't understand what that meant until like later on down the line. And I'm like, this is what she's talking about, right? And so becoming is honestly stepping into the unknown, right? Like when people are becoming the better version of themselves, we really don't know who we are becoming until we realize like, we just don't like this type of version. So what else do I need to do? And so I always think that also becoming is getting out of your comfort zone and identifying what it is that you are good at. And so regardless if it relates to TV or even just your personal lifestyle, but I just want to know for you, in becoming Morgan Young, who you are today, when did you realize that who you are today is who God called you to be?
Ooh, that's like quite a question, because I still think that that's still something I'm working on. And I think if it's done correctly, I think that's something I'll always be working on. But I think as it stands now, I think, you know, when we talk about strengths and weaknesses, it's really interesting that you talk about how we met, because I think one of the strengths that I've developed, or, you know, whatever along the time, a strength I think that's been poured into me that I've tried to use as a strength for others, is relationship. I think, you know, especially a relationship among women. I was raised by a single mom who was also raised by a single mom who also helped raise me. So I was raised by strong Black women who are prayer warriors, who are faithful, who, you know, are a little bit kooky at times, but will always, you know, I talk about my mom and grandma all the time. They're my favorite people, but, you know, always the first answer is always to pray. And through every hard time, through every hard moment, that's always how they've handled life. And that's what I grew up seeing. And so I think, you know, the idea of women kind of coming alongside other women and saying, hey, you know, I may not have the answer here, but I'm going to walk with you through this, and I'm going to listen to you, and I'm going to pray you through this. That's how I was raised. And I think it's something that I've carried, and it's something that I've had to fight for, because ego is a thing, and comparison is a thing, and jealousy are things. And no matter who you are, that's going to attack you at different times. And I think especially with women, it's like we have this like underlying urge to not do that, because we think that if somebody else has something, that's going to take something from us. When in actuality, the more one of us has, the more we all have. And I think that's a strength for me. And it's something that's still like, even in the past week, you know, 2 women that I work with who really, you know, I've only been at my job for a year. We've been in COVID, don't really owe me anything, have poured into me for no reason at all. 2 women that I work with who I've known for less than a year, who are both women of faith, have prayed over me for no reason, you know, and it's those things. So I think that's a thing. And I think, you know, when I was telling you, like when we were, you know, getting me ready for Topeka and talking about, you know, next steps, the idea of authenticity, I think, you know, at the end of the day, I'm not a perfect person. Nobody is. I could, you know, I'm very, you know, hypercritical of myself, like a lot of us are. But one thing I think that I am at all times is authentic. And I'm not going to change. You know, if I need to change, I will, but I don't have like a TV version of me and like an at-home version of me and like a version of me for my family. Like, this is who I am all the time. I may speak differently or whatever, or be more candid with thoughts at home, or, I might be more emotional and I may cry. I cry about everything, like every commercial ever. But like, I may do those kinds of things. But in terms of how, I think one thing I really wanted to do is carry myself the way I carry myself, dress the way that I dress, be who I am in every conversation, and own how I feel. Like if I don't like something, I don't like something. And if I do, I do. And if I celebrate it, I celebrate it. And if I don't, it doesn't always make me received well by other people, but I think one of the best things that I'm doing for myself, and I don't get it right all the time, is being okay with that. And just making sure that like I'm rooted in what I believe in, so that when I bring who I am to the table, I am comfortable with that and I will answer for that if it's called into question, and being okay with other people not accepting it. And a lot of people haven't accepted it. And that's okay. So,
Okay, so one thing that I really want to touch on that you said that was like, coming at me was, you said, I am the same person when I'm at work and when I'm at home. And I think for maybe in the beginning of my career, I was battling with that. And I think I'm just now coming into this awareness of be who you are at all times. And I think that God was like, really speaking to me when I started to walk and listen to the things that he was saying. And it's crazy because like you hear it all the time and you're like, okay, yeah, like, he'll give me the desires of my heart. Like he won't give me more than I can handle, or just even hearing him say that, everything that you desire is all around you. And I'm like, okay, yeah. Right. But like really everything that I desire was all around me. And I think that I was searching for, myself on the outside in different people, right? Like kind of like searching for acceptance from different people. And I think that a lot of people are battling with trying to be a different version of themselves at home and at work. And I think that's something to kind of address, like, how do you navigate through that? And I'm still navigating through it right now. I think I had to even learn that, like, it's weird because I think sometimes too, like people would look at me at work and be like, and look at me on social media, right? And even think like, this girl's a different person. Like, what is really going on? And I think it was because I was afraid. I was afraid to show my authentic self at work because I was afraid that they were going to judge me or think that I was less than or not good enough, just like all these different things. And Morgan does a really, really good job at, again, navigating and just being who she is authentically. And I think that's why people gravitate towards you. And at least that's why I do. But, definitely express to the viewers and the listeners that, like, how can we navigate by just being who you are at all times?
Sure. I think, and I know this isn't just for television, but I think this is something that, especially young people, like starting to work, whether you work in TV or corporate or whatever, I think there's a pressure, especially as women of color. I think there's a pressure of what you're supposed to look like. I know I came into my career as a weekend anchor, and I just remember feeling like I had watched all these people and I was like trying to talk, like trying to like I think I told you this, like trying to deepen my voice, sounding like a whole transformer for what? Like it's not cute. Like, and it's just like, and what, I tried that and I realized like, it just didn't feel right. And it didn't feel good. And like, I finally got to a point somewhere during my time in Montgomery, which is where I started, where it's like, okay, I'm anchoring here. And for those who are not familiar, you have your show on the weekends, you have a sports anchor and you have a weather meteorologist. And luckily for me at that station, both of those people were women that I was really good friends with. And they knew me. And I was like, my good friend Maria, who was doing sports, I don't know anything about sports. And so it was very much like when we would talk, we played to that. And she would be like, okay, I'm going to talk to you about something that you know, do it. And then she would play with whatever it was. And my very good friend, who's a meteorologist, like we talked, she's like, I know that you care about clothes and hair. So we're going to make this happen for you. Like, and you work with those things. And when I started to just let myself be who I am and stop like beating the crap out of myself for not looking like that person, this person, or this person. It got so much easier and it was so much more fun. Yes. And I was doing a better job. And I carried that with me. I remember when I got to St. Louis, which at that point was a big jump for me in my career, going to a really great legacy station. And there was a manager who, when I came in, I got that job. I was in market, it was at the time it was market 21 and I was 23 when I got there. And, I was by far the youngest anchor there. I felt very unqualified. Like it was very much, and that manager said to me, I want you to know, we are not hiring you to be like this person. And he was naming fantastic anchors, like legends who also poured into me while I was there. We're not hiring you to be this person, or this person. We hired you to be you. And I was like, okay, so that's what I get. You know what I mean? And,
All right, this is it.
it's, and, you know, I feel, cause like I had that moment of like affirmation and encouragement. I know a lot of people don't have that, but that moment, that person to look at them and say it, if that makes sense. So I think, and you know, that's something, and you have to restart every time. Being in Dallas, I'm having to relearn that, you know, and like be okay with that.
Yes.
And being in the station that I watched for years and was like, ooh, one day I want to get there, getting here and being like, you still need to still just be who you are, learn, grow, you know, but you still have to learn that. I think the thing is to remember that in any field that you're in, if you get there and you're amongst other people who are there, you have to assume to some degree that everybody has the same basic skills. You know, everybody can, you know, everybody in the building that I work in can write a script, you know, can do this, can, you know, understands how to pitch a story, all these things. We all went to journalism school for the most part. We all know what we're doing here. But there's something that you have to do or that you can do that other people cannot. There's something that you have an understanding or a passion for or an eye for that other people do not. And if you can identify in other, like I could name every person that I work with on my night side shift, other reporters, and from my perspective, say something very special about that person and what they can do that I am very inspired by. You have to assume that you are there because you also have that. So if you haven't figured out what that is, invest in figuring that out because it's your magic. We're all here. We all do something different. And you wouldn't want to go to a dinner where every side dish is the exact same. You want a variety of things and everything is going to shine on its own. And if you are not allowing yourself to shine and you're not allowing yourself to be who you are, that's a waste of your time. That's a waste of your time. And if someone has put you in a position or hired you to a position, they see something in you. And I think the best journey of your life is like figuring out what you do that's yours. And even if a million other people seem to be doing the same thing, there is only one you. You're one of one. So I think it's just really kind of leaning into that and then allowing yourself to be okay with it and allowing yourself to celebrate it to the point that you don't really care if other people celebrate it. And I think that's, I know for me, the hardest part, but I think that's really important.
Dropping gems already. We're like, what, 19 minutes in? Okay. All right, Morgan. Okay. So, I just got to get loose for a minute because I was just like having a little anxiety earlier, but anyways, one thing that you, again, just hit kind of like spot on was when you get to that place of where you want to be, right? Like a lot of people are like, when I get there, you know what I mean? Like when I get to that space, then I'm going to be. And it's like, you know, I think Mike Todd said in his sermon recently, like, here is holy, right? And so you trying to wait until you get there to be this type of version of yourself, like what if, again, that's not even really you? And so I think what I'm listening and hearing you say, speaking to me, is like, be yourself at all times. Like even when you get there, still be that person, because it can be intimidating. And I can't even imagine of like, when you get to that space of like the place that you've always prayed for, the place that you really want to be at. And then it's like, you're there and you're like, holy crap, there's like tons of other talent that's really good as well. Like, how do I navigate through that? And so I love that you're like, just still stay grounded, just stay grounded in who God has called you to be. Like, just be that, because when you start looking at everyone else, then you start to get deterred from who you are. And then you start to feel like overwhelmed and you start to feel underestimated. Like, you know, oh, well, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not supposed to be here. No, you are supposed to be there for a reason. And so Morgan, if you can also even touch on, because one thing I am hearing you saying is like, focus on your strengths, focus on what you're good at, focus on why are you there, and like increase that strength. You know, don't focus on everyone else's strength to where you diminish who you are. And then you're just no longer looking at you and you start to like devalue yourself. And so I'm not going to lie, like, I think, I'm starting to understand, or want to understand rather, like when I get to that space, I think that's one thing I'm actually afraid of, is being so overwhelmed with the talent and the people who are there to where I kind of just lose sight of myself. Right. And so I guess, how do you remember to use your strengths in the moment where you feel weak?
Whew. And you mean like when you get to a place that you've prayed to be?
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, that's kind of like what I'm living in right now. And I know you and I have talked about that a bit. So, and I don't want to speak so specifically to TV, but
no,
where
it's
I'm
okay.
at now,
that's fine.
Okay. Where I'm at now is, like I said, a station that I I think a lot of people watch and was like, oh my gosh. Like, and so it's the dynamic of
it is like the top 5. I don't know if you guys understand, but the top, 3?
It's Market 5. And it's just,
Market
a
5.
really solid station. It was a station that I watched, and, the talent is just unbelievable. Working with, from the managers to the other reporters to the photographers, like everybody, like there's not one okay person.
Right.
There's not one even just decently good person. Everyone is that person.
The big leagues.
Yes. And
it's like playing with like LeBron, Steph Curry. I mean,
don't talk
legit
sports to me. It's like Tyra and Naomi. Talk to me and what I'm just kidding. And so it was very much like when I got there, I was like, ooh, this was an accident. Like, how did I get here? And I think it was a couple of things. I think I just had to sit down and just remember, not to get like too like biblical and spiritual and all of that, but it's a thing. And I was talking to my boyfriend about this yesterday. I think one thing that we always have to remember, and Priscilla Shirer writes about this a lot, we all want to talk about, God and his power and what he's doing and how he'll move, which we should, because that is it. But if we also have to acknowledge that we have an enemy. We absolutely have an enemy. And if you do not acknowledge him, and you do not know that he's here, and you do not get familiar with how he moves, you will fail to show up to a battle, which is weird because you're already equipped to win. Ooh. Like, that's the thing. Like, and Ryan, my boyfriend and I were talking about this yesterday. I'm like, it's not to say like, Satan, oh my gosh, why are we so scared of him? But it's like, you've got to know he's here. And you're never going to lose to him. But I think the biggest victory that he gets as our enemy is us diminishing how he works, us acting like he doesn't exist. Because if you don't know that he's going to attack your thoughts, and he's going to attack you in your relationships, and he's going to watch you get to your blessing and then try to tell you that you can't, you're not going to think how to actively pray against that. Like when I tell you, I can tell a real story. I have anchored so many newscasts. I have anchored 5 hours of coverage for tornado by myself. I have done breaking news by myself. I have done all these things. Get to the station I'm at now, anchoring a regular, not that it doesn't matter, but a Saturday newscast at like 6 o'clock during a football game. So probably not that many people are watching, and had an anxiety attack on it. Like, there was nothing remarkable or scary about this show at all. Nothing was breaking, nothing was happening, nothing was live, but had a panic. There was no reason to be nervous. And it happened to me multiple times, Danielle, like multiple times. And I'm at a loss. Like, I'm just like, what? Like, why is this happening to me? This has never happened. And I was running out of air, and I talk all the time. Like, I don't run out of air. I talk when I'm on air, when I'm not. I never stop talking. So to physically run out of air, to be attacked in an area that I wasn't even thinking about was crazy to me. Crazy. I had a panic attack during a show. And, luckily I work with people who were able to jump in and make it look clean, but I was terrified. Wow. And I called a mentor, and I talked to her, and she prayed with me, and it was a blessing, but I was shook by that for months. Like, just didn't know when it was going to happen. It happened a couple more times. And then I realized, babe, you've gotten so comfortable doing this, and you've gotten so comfortable, and you know that you can do it, and you've been elevated to the job you wanted. You've never actually prayed in months for God to help you do your job. Wow. Like, and I was like, huh. And I was like, what? And I was like, well, what? And so I prayed. And a couple of times, like, it was kind of awkward because I think people could see me, but I would walk around the studio and just pray. Wow. And I would pray for air. I've never prayed for air, but I prayed for air and was fine. And I did it every time it was fine. There was one show that I didn't because I forgot or was eating it or whatever. I ran out of air again on air. And I was like, huh. And it's just kind of like, I feel like when you get to the space that you've prayed to be, the most important thing you can do is remember who got you there and hold to that, because he's going to bless us, right? Yes. And he wants to bless us, but we as people make the mistake of A, worshiping the thing that he's given instead of him. And then B, thinking that because we got here, we somehow got here on our own. And C, forgetting the fact that Satan is watching you too. Come on. You too. And he's like, oh, okay. Right. You know what I mean? Bet. You know what I mean? And so he's like, oh, I'm gonna really mess this up. And she's not even looking for me. So excellent. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so, So that's what I say about that.
Morgan,
I don't know.
I feel special because you've never told me that, first of all. Okay. But that's the point of this show, is to reveal the vulnerable things that we kind of go through behind closed doors. And I think that you kind of expressing that is saving so many people's lives. I don't think you understand that, like, and that's the goal. Okay. Is to like reveal to you that people who are in higher positions, like, go through things too. Like, let's just talk about it. You know what I mean? It really bothered me to hear that Miss USA died. It really bothered me.
Me too.
It did, because, again, a person that you would never imagine is going through something like behind closed doors, like looking at her Instagram posts and things like that. Like, she was just okay. You know what I mean? Like to you, and I want to go back to even just what you were saying as well, but it's like, how did that affect you as well? Like, when you saw that news?
I think it made me really sad. It made me really sad because, like, what a beautiful human being, right? Like, and like what an impact. And you're seeing, and I obviously did not know her, but you're seeing all these people on social media have these memories who can testify to how wonderful this person was and had personal connections with her and who she inspired. Like, I think there's a girl I follow who's like, this was my role model. This was someone that I looked at.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound like the post that everyone's saying, but it's just, it's sobering. Like, it's like, you don't get, like, Instagram is not real. Like, it's just not. Like, it can make you money. Great. Hustle, do it. It can bring elevation, do it. Use it for what it's for. But it is not any. When I'm crying on the floor, like my anxiety that you talked about, I want to say probably the day that I had that anxiety attack, I took an outfit picture and posted it with like a happy Saturday caption. No, I did not get on my story and be like, I had an anxiety attack on here. Like, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. They were the same day. It's not real. And we're people are struggling, and we've had a really rough 2 to 3 years now. It's hard. Okay. We're in a pandemic. We are, as a culture, I guess, addressing racism head on, but it's always been here. It's exhausting.
Come on.
We work in a profession where people hate us most of the time just for telling them like what's going on. Like, it's a lot. And it's hard. It's hard. And I don't believe that every single person in this space is 100% jolly and good and full every single day. But for some reason, we have convinced ourselves that we've got to tell people we are. And then this is not any comment on this beautiful young woman. I don't know. Her. I'm talking about me
in general.
Like, it's just like, it's really hard. And, people say, be kind. Yeah, be kind. But also, like, give people a break. Like, we need a break, and give yourself I think that's the big thing. Give yourself a break. Like, it's okay if you're not okay right now. And it's okay if you're not super happy. And it's okay if you need to cancel plans and you don't, like, it's okay. It's okay. And I think we have, as a culture, really gotten into the way that we make people think who we want people to think that we are, and valuing that over who we actually are. And I think that's very dangerous. I think it's very, very dangerous. And I think that's kind of where we're at. And I'm not really super encouraged by that, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. And I just want to say first, honestly, thank you, Morgan, for saying the things that people don't want to say. Right. And that is, it is okay to not be okay. And again, I just want to go back to even also referencing to what you did say earlier, and having this moment with me was very vulnerable. And I really appreciate that, because you didn't have to get on here and say any of that. And I think I want people to understand that certain people that I'm choosing, first of all, they're authentic. And then second of all, it's not to say like, oh my God, this is for them to have like a sad moment. Like, that's not what this is about. You know what I mean? Because like you said, you could have posted on social media and been like, I had an anxiety attack today, but I decided not to. Because sometimes we also, I don't know about you, but sometimes I kind of feel like, I don't want people to feel sorry for me. Like, this is not a moment for you to feel sorry. This is just a transparent moment for you to understand that people who are in higher positions are also going through things. Like, check on your friends. Like, Morgan kind of honestly expressing the moment that she had is a vulnerable moment. Take it in, and also understand that you're not alone. You're not alone. And Morgan, I'm also here to tell you that you're not alone. And I know you know that as well. And I know sometimes I feel like I'm like, this girl knows everything I'm telling you. I think the other day when I was like, I know you know this, but I just want to let you know that I love you. You know what I mean? But I also, people who like me also want you to know that like you're cared for and like we do love you. And it's just a reminder, you know, like you are loved, you are seen, you are worthy, you are comforting. And you're everything like to whoever you need to be, because whoever is going to listen to this at the right moment that they're going to be listening to it needs to hear everything that you just said. And I think that it's powerful. I really do. And I always think that she underestimates herself for the things that she does say. Cause I'm like, girl, you're over here speaking so much power. Like literally, like it is okay not to be okay. And I think you even said something as well that I kind of want to go back to is people pretend to be who they want to be and think that is the value of them. You know what I mean? And maybe you kind of said it actually even better. So you can just kind of go back and listen to that part. But I think that right there, why do we do that as individuals? And is it because we don't like ourselves? And I kind of want to speak also to that because I think I was there in 1 minute of, you know, I want to be seen and I want to be viewed as this way, as this person, you know what I mean? But not even being that person yet or behind closed doors. And that could be like, you know, that doesn't mean like, you know, I was trying to be this diva person or just something that's just like was out of my element. I think it was more like, I want to be confident. I want to be worthy. I want everything that I say to be kind of like sharp. You know what I mean? And I had to learn that it's okay to not be there yet. It's okay to just be who you are now. I think I was afraid of, again, just going back to my weaknesses being revealed. Like this person is really not that person.
Yeah, I hear that. And I think that's the thing for all of us. I think especially when you're in a business that's so public facing, I think ego is a big part of it. I think social media is a big part of it. Yeah. I think too, because we're in this season where people like, it's almost like being known and being famous and having followers is a currency. It really is a currency. You can get paid for that. Yeah. And so we're in this thing where I feel like that people are afraid to not be relevant and people are afraid to not be seen and people are afraid. And like, again, I keep bringing up the Bible and I'm so, cause I just read this morning.
Bring it up, please. They need to hear it.
I think one thing that we skip over a lot of times in scripture is our timelines. Moses, okay, was over here. I also am a Bible paraphraser, okay? So it's just kind of like just
that is fine.
In my own voice.
But y'all should just go read the Bible. How about that?
Just go read the Bible. And then you're gonna be like, okay, I know what she's talking about. It's not this like random awful transcription she's giving. But like, you know, Moses, when called to like lead the Israelites out of Egypt, it like, you know, he had like he had a little scuffle, okay, in Egypt. And they were like, no, we really are not messing with you right now. You can go. He was gone. It took 40 years before God came to Moses and was like, all right, I need you to go back. Like, I know that they kicked you out, but I'm going to use you to lead these people out. He was like, I was living my life, like 40 years. Like, you know what I mean? And Moses fought him. He was like, I don't really, you know, like, I don't like him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not even a thinker. I don't want to. But it took 40 years.
Coming from my life.
It took 40 years, you know? And, you know, I think too, it's like Jesus, when he got overwhelmed or needed to talk to God, went and got by himself. You know, Jesus had this moment where he was baptized, right? And like the power of God comes upon him and he like really is that dude. Like, oh, like you're the Messiah. Got it. All right, 40 days into the wilderness for you, buddy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what a reward. He didn't get a trophy. He didn't make a boomerang for his story. He didn't get more followers. He didn't go out to eat. He didn't go to Tulum to celebrate. Like, he went to the wilderness and he was out there and he was hungry. Okay. Like,
Morgan is coming for people. Okay.
Like, no, and so I think one way I had to check myself, because when walking through a season of what I think was depression and anxiety, and kind of finally coming out of that was, this is not a moment for you to get on Instagram and be preaching about depression and anxiety. Because girl, you don't know anything about it because you're crying every day. Like I had to humble myself. And I've had moments where I've been not so good before. And I'll do this thing where like, And anyone who, and my very close friends will like make fun of me for this, because like I do, like when I have like a word and I want to share it, like I will post like a random picture of like a piece of toast or something and then like make a caption, and that comes from my heart. But at the same time, when I'm dealing with something hard, in the past, what I've done is I post a post like that, like, oh, I'm having depression, you know, something like, you know, you can walk through this and blah, 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 blah. And I swore to myself, like I made this promise to myself, I'm not going to post anything like that until that is actually how I feel. Until I have experienced something and I have learned something and I have a word that I think can actually bless somebody, not me trying to convince myself that I'm okay. So when I went through this over the past few months, very recently, I was like, this is not a time for you to get on Instagram. This is not a time for you to go drink a ton of wine. This is not any of that. You need to get quiet and get with God. Because if Jesus needs to be quiet and get with God, if Moses needs to go and be by himself and talk to people, what makes you think that you can just sit here and watch the Real Housewives of Potomac and be fine? No.
She's coming for my throat.
So I really had to check myself. Checking yourself, I check myself like weekly, and it's just very much like,
I think you need to do more of that. Okay. Because I think honestly, Morgan, people are just out here checking other people instead of checking themselves. And it's like, check yourself. Stop telling me what I need to be doing. Are you doing that? Are you doing that? That's the question.
And then once you check yourself too, it's like, I really am in no position to check any other human being because I am the real life ghetto over here. So I'm just going to be here if you need me and be quiet. That's how
oh my God. Yeah. I think you said a lot that I just like, I can't really unpack. So it's for you to say, it's for me to kind of like settle in. It's for the listeners to settle in. And I love it. I love it. And I think most importantly, we do this as well. And when I mean we, I mean me and the world, right? Is like you said, posting something and you're just really not living in that. Like, I think that goes back to, I think Mike Todd says, like, just because you posted a scripture does not mean that you are actually living by that scripture. Stop posting it. You know what I mean? Like maybe just wait till after the fact. And I think I'm also in that season as well of like, even though I'm in the season of vulnerability, I'm not in the season of, like you said, just like putting everything out there to where like, if I'm really not living by this yet, I'm not going to share that. And I think I'm kind of like trying to get out of that. And I think I have gotten out of it. It's just like being my natural self in all ways that I can, like, and it feels good. Like it feels really good.
Right?
It's freeing.
It frees you.
Yeah. Yes. I think that's so beautiful. Like, stop trying to pretend what does Sarah Jakes Roberts say? Like, God doesn't bless who you pretend to be. He only like blesses
who you are.
Thank you. Yes. Just be that, you know, but I really think that people don't like themselves.
I wonder if it's people that people don't like themselves. I think it's more of a thing of people don't know themselves because we, you know, I will speak for myself. You know, we kind of came up in the MySpace thing, you know, like, and I don't want to blame everything on social media, but it, you know, MySpace and I can't imagine being in elementary school right now with social media and elementary school kids with social media. It's the wildest thing I've ever seen. But like, you don't, it's like, especially I think as girls, it's like, you don't even have the time or the opportunity or the chance to develop like who you are. Figure out what you like, because you're always told so much about who you're supposed to be and for who. And, you know, I think for her, like, it's just a whole thing. Like, you need to be like this to have friends. You need to be like this for boys to like you. You need to be like this to do this. And, you know, I think it's a thing of like, so maybe people don't like themselves, but maybe it's because they weren't actually given a chance to be who they are. And they've been morphed into this thing. And they're like, wait, I'm not this way. I don't like this. And, you know, I think I had a moment like that in college, like towards the end of college. And I was like, babe, these people you're hanging out with, these things that you're saying, the way that you're being, like, this is not who you are. And it's icky. Like, you can only pretend to be a certain person for so long. My God. You can, you know, we as people are always going to reveal who we are. So, you know, if you are not doing the work to actually become who you are and want to do that, you're going to take on the form of something else. And if it's not right with the soul that you are created with, you're going to have dissonance. You're going to have dissonance, and you don't have to tell the world that you have dissonance, but you know,
the body doesn't lie.
Yeah, no,
honestly,
and you'll feel it. You'll feel it.
Wow. Morgan, you're on here dropping gems, honey. I love this. I love this. This is awesome. Okay. So honestly, I think I said this is going to happen, is I knew that I was going to have a topic, right? And I'm like, okay, like this is the topic. We're going to go this way. But I ended up praying and I said, like, Holy Spirit, just have your way. You know what I mean? And we came on here talking about strengths and weaknesses. And I still feel like in a way that we did. And I just want you guys to just go back and really, the moral of this episode is really learning your strengths, figuring out your weaknesses, and remembering your strengths in the times of weaknesses. And I think Morgan touched on it in so many different ways and so many different perspectives that you can pull something from it. And I love all of it. But as we come to the close of this episode, Morgan, first of all, before we go, I'm going to be doing an advertisement for her. So you guys know that Morgan likes to cook, right? And she didn't know that this was coming, but I have to put her on blast. Okay. We're going to put her on blast. And first of all, honey, when is this restaurant or cookbook? When is this coming up? Because I'm ready for it. And I'm ready to just advertise. I could do I can give you a promo on here. That's what we're going to do. Because Morgan loves to cook. Okay.
I do love to cook. It's like therapy. Like I go to therapy, but then it's also like, it's like a cool thing, but I'm working on it. I'm working on creating my own recipes. Right now I've done a lot of like working through other people's recipes. And now I'm like learning techniques and flavors that I like. So I am starting to tiptoe into the space of making my own. So circle back with me in some time.
Followed her on Instagram. I believe it's Morgan Young TV. Y'all, this girl be a chef on there. I was trying to keep up and I can't. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to come to the restaurant when it opens. I like to cook, but not as much as Morgan. So I'm like, let me just wait till the restaurant opens. I don't know if your boyfriend has encouraged you to do that yet, but I'm here for it. Okay. I'm definitely here for it. That can just be your side job.
I feel like a restaurant though is like super hard. Like I feel like it's like a whole, it's like everybody says that it's like a whole thing. It takes forever. It's like, maybe later in life, it's definitely something I would enjoy. I think so. We'll see.
Well, I love it. You know what I was thinking also too? If not your own restaurant, maybe your own wine. Cause I know I want to get my own wine. I know. Her eyebrows are like, yes. Yep. Me and Morgan are wine fanatics. I don't think you understand. It's because that I know all the expensive wines and better wines. Before I was drinking some cheap wine. I'm not going to lie. I was. It's just like, that's not, this one right here. I'm like, okay. It's because of you. I like Riesling. Is that how you say it?
Riesling?
Riesling. Okay. Yeah. It's because of you. I like that one.
Okay. Yeah. We got to get you drier. We're going to work on it. It's okay because somebody worked with me because I sure did start at Moscato d'Asti and really thought I was doing something. And my mom was like, girl, what's going on? So, we'll work on it.
Well, Morgan, I do appreciate you. But before we go, I also want to give you time to say anything. If you can leave something with the viewers, the listeners that are tuning in today and the day that they need to listen to this episode, what do you want them to leave with?
I think two things. And when we talk, I know the topic of this was strengths and weaknesses. And I think a big thing to remember, especially as a person of faith and especially thinking about strengths, and a quote that I love, you are your best thing. God has done so many things and he will give you so many things to bless you, but your body, your face, your heart, your passions, your wisdom, the skills that you have that nobody else has, your perspective, the lens that you have, those things are your best thing. He'll give you a million things in life. He gave you your salvation, but that is what he gave you that specifically belongs to you. And you are not an accident. Everything you have is something that he gave you. Every stirring you have, what makes you angry, what makes you sad, what you're passionate about, because you look around, right? And there are people who have these passions and you're like, I love that they're passionate about that. I don't feel that passion for that. I feel passion for this. He gives us things and he wants us to know, I think, that we are special. You are special. Yes. You're not so important that you should not love and care for other people or put yourself above others, but make no mistake, you are special and he created you with intention. And I think too, the last thing, and I read this in Exodus yesterday, it's in chapter 31, I want to say, and I almost skipped it, but it's the part of the Bible where God is basically talking to Moses and he's like, I want you to build this, 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 and this. And I want you to build this temple and it's going to be really specific and made of this gold and this, that, very specific instructions for how to build it. And then in Exodus 31, he says to him, and I have appointed this man and I have given him a specific skill and a wisdom,
Yes.
and the Holy Spirit is on him. And his skill is he's going to be able to make things out of gold and silver, and what he's going to be a crafter. And he's going to be able to make all of the things that I've just told you that I want. And then I'm going to make a bunch of other people who are also good at this to work underneath him. And they are going to build these big golden things and wooden things to be in the temple that I told you.
Yes.
And the very next chapter of Exodus, the people like are mad because like God hasn't spoken to them. So then they make this gold calf and they start worshiping it, and then God's ticked off and like kills a bunch of people. So like the thing that I saw there was like he gave us skills, and he anoints people to do certain things, and he does it so that we will honor him with the work that we do. And what we tend to do is, instead of honoring God with our gift, we make idols out of our work. And we make idols out of our skills, and we get our ego, and we tell ourselves that we are all these things. And I'm going to, before I get in the word, I'm going to go to work, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to put all of the worshiping what he gives instead of who he is. And there's such a fine line there. It's like, God doesn't hate gold and silver and all these things. He anointed someone to be able to make them. He just wanted him to make them to honor him. And he got irritated when they were like, gold and silver calf, like that made him mad. So I think that's the thing I have to convict myself. I am a good thing. I am an intentional thing. I am my best thing, but I was not put here to honor myself. And I was not put here to honor my skills. And I was not put here to honor anything else that's in this world. I was put here to use what I've been given to honor him. And as long as I do that, great. But the moment that I stop doing that, which I do often, we'll have some problems. And so I think that's the final thing. Like, be you and be confident in you, love you, be grateful for what you're able to do because you are special, and then honor God with it, and you will never fail. So
drops mic. That's it. Oh my God. Yeah. That was needed to be said for sure. Wow. Thank you so much, Morgan. Y'all, gems were dropped today. I'm super, super honored to have this conversation with you today, Morgan. I do appreciate you. As busy as you are, I thank you for joining me today. And I also encourage the listeners and viewers that are listening and tuning in, whichever way, YouTube or the podcast, Apple Podcasts, is share this with someone. I always tell people that this is for you, but it's also maybe for someone else. So I encourage you to share it with someone. I also encourage you to follow the podcast on all Instagram, all social media, Instagram, Facebook. That's where we're located right now. Behind the Spotlight Podcast is the name of it, or you can just follow my personal page at daniellejmartin TV. And that's all we got for you guys today. Anything else, Morgan?
No, I think that's it. Thanks for having me.
You did phenomenal. I do appreciate you joining me. All right, guys, we'll see you guys next Wednesday.